Very good morning, students. Today we would be learning on electroencephalography. So this is your unit 5, EEG. So basically, what is the function of an EEG? Yes, you're absolutely right. In order to find out the different brain waves, we use electroencephalography. So what the main applications in our field in biomedical is, we are basically using it in a lot of brain computer interface applications, like for subjects who have ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. What do you mean by that? People who go through a spinal cord injury, in order to find out their brain waves, there are different waves in EEG. So, and each wave has a particular application or a particular use. So, we will learn in detail about each waves also. Now, why we are learning it is we have to actually make an EEG module along with the help of an Arduino. So first of all, in order to construct a circuit or to build up a circuit, we just go through the background of what an EEG is, what its application is, and then we shall come back and learn this. So an imaging technique that is used, that is EEG, a measurement of the electrical activity of the brain, the recording of the brain's spontaneous electrical activity over a short period of time. Usually it is between 20 to 40 minutes, as recorded from multiple electrodes that are placed on the scalp. So this is like one of the early EEGs that were actually recorded in the year 1924. So it was actually by Hans Berger. Um, it was actually a sample at the rate of like 10 hertz. Now, what is the principle behind EEG? The brain's electrical charge is maintained by millions of neurons in our brain. Neurons pass signals via action potentials created by exchange between the sodium and potassium ions in and out of the cell. Volume conduction. When the wave of the ions reaches the electrodes of the scalp, they can push or pull electrons on the metals of the electrodes. The difference in push or voltage between any two electrodes, you are placing the electrodes on the scalp. So any two, the voltage difference between any two electrodes that are placed on your scalp are measured by the help of a voltmeter. So recording these voltages over a given time gives us our EEG. Scalp EEG activity shows oscillations at a variety of frequencies. Several of these oscillations have characteristic frequency ranges, spatial distributions, and are associated with different states of brain functioning. Now we have brainwave classification. So as I said, there are different types of waves. So their patterns are, brain patterns form wave shapes that are commonly sinusoidal. Measured from peak to peak and normally ranges from 0.5 to 100 microvolt in amplitude. Signal is derived by means of a Fourier transform power spectrum from the raw. Brain waves have been characterized into four basic groups. You have beta waves, which is greater than 13 Hertz, alpha waves between the range of 18 to 13 Hertz, theta 4 to 8 Hertz, and delta 0.5 to 4 Hertz. Now, there are actually, along with their frequency, on the scalp where you have to place the electrodes, usually what is taken and pathologically what is determined. Now, for example, when you take a delta wave, the frequency I said is from 0.5 to 4. So, frontally in adults, it has been placed, and posteriorly in children. Again, what are the next one? Normally, what it usually determines? Adults slow wave sleep in babies has been found during some continuous attention. So this is actually sleep. It is actually placed on the subject, and there are a lot of papers. If you look into research articles, they do a lot of research when the subject is asleep or when the subject is placed is at the rest condition. What are the brain waves occurred? So these are this is a commonly done research, but it's already a lot are already existing. subcortical lesions, diffuse lesions, metabolic encephalopathy, hydrocephalus, deep midline lesions. Now, next one is the theta wave. Now, what is the theta wave? It takes between 4 to 8. It is found in locations not related to task at hand. Okay, young children, example for young children, drowsiness, or in arousal in older children and adults, idling, associated with inhibition of elicited responses. So what are the pathological conditions that you look into? Focal subcortical niche, metabolic encephalopathy, deep midline disorders, some instances of hydrocephalus. The next one we will be looking is alpha, which is between the range of 18 to 13 hertz. So what are the locations that are being placed? Posterior regions of head, both sides, higher in amplitude on dominant side. Central sides are usually the C3 and the C4 at your head. It's not your frontal part, but on your head. You'll have the C3 and the C4 position, and you will take the condition, or you'll place the device and you're taking it when the subject is at rest. So relaxed, reflecting, closing the eyes, all associated with inhibition control, seemingly with the purpose of timing inhibitory activity in different locations across the brain. Pathologically, it's actually the sorry. Now we have the beta waves, which is the range between 13 to 30 hertz. So you can say both sides, symmetrical distribution, most evident frontally, low amplitude waves. So what does it normally denote? Alert, working, active, busy or very anxious, thinking about something, active concentration. Okay, so this is actually in pathologically, you can say it as the benzodiazepines, which is a pathological location for beta waves. Next one, you have the gamma waves, which is between the range of 13 to plus 100. So here you place it on the somatosensory cortex. Now, if you have a doubt about the somatosensory cortex, we actually did a previous class on that. So just please take up the notes and check it out. So just during cross-modal sensory processing, also is shown during short-term memory matching of recognized objects, sounds, or tactile sensations. A decrease in gamma band activity may be associated with cognitive decline, especially when related to the theta band. However, this has been proven for use as a clinical diagnostic. Next, we have the mu waves, which is between the range 18 to 13 hertz, and you put it on the sensory motor cortex. The electrodes are placed on the sensory motor cortex. Shows rest state motor neurons. Mu suppression could be indicative for motor mirrors neurons working and deficits in mu wave suppression, and thus in mirror neurons. Now, what are the applications of certain EEG? So we've been learning, we have been working on EEG for a long time. So what are the applications? For monitoring alertness, brain death, locate areas of damage following head injury, stroke, tumor, etc. Test efferent pathways, especially ERPs. This is evoked potentials. I remember teaching you the different ERP waves and what is an ERP, etc. So monitor cognitive engagement, produce biofeedback situations, alpha, etc. Control anesthesia depth, investigate epilepsy and locate seizure origin, test epilepsy drug effects, assist in experimental cortical excision of epileptic focus, monitor human and animal brain development, test drugs for convulsive effects, investigate sleep disorders and physiology. Now, what is the methodology is used over here? It's actually a non-invasive. What is a non-invasive? You don't have to do a surgery in it. You can actually place it on the scalp, and that is why it is called as a non-invasive. It is a painless. Obviously, we just place gel so that we place the gel on the electrodes and place it on the scalp. To study the brain organization of cognitive processes such as perception, memory, attention, language, and emotion in normal adults and children. Major components that are used are electrodes with conductive media, amplifiers with filters, A to D converter, recording device. Then, so these are the four things. So electrodes, what do they basically do? They read the signal from the head servers, amplifies, bring the microvolt signals into the range where they can be digitalized accurately. Converter changes the signal from analog signal to digital signal, and then personal computer stores and displays obtain data. So this is like the whole of the EEG explained just in one point. Now, what are the types of electrodes? So we actually use it for recording purposes, EEG. So disposable are there. You have the reusable disc electrodes, headbands and electrode caps, saline based electrodes, needle electrodes. Now, in our college, in our department, we have the EEG. So what type of electrodes are used in the EEG, in that EEG that we have in our college? Think about it and get back to me. Put in your, send me your answers in the chat. Electrode caps are preferred with certain number of electrodes installed on its surface. Commonly used scalp electrodes consist of sodium chloride, AgCl discs 1 to 3 mm in diameter with long flexible leads that can be plugged into an amplifier. So see, the signals that come from a brain, or from a human body are always very in microvolt range. So we require an amplifier in order to amplify the particular signal. Needle electrodes are used for long recordings and are invasively inserted under the scalp. Electrode locations and names are specified by the International 10 to 20 system. So we actually, whether it is EEG, whether it is FNIRS, the main commonly universally accepted placement for electrodes are the 10 to 20 system. So we do not follow any other system for placement of electrodes, but only the international 10 to 20 system for most clinical and research application. Label 10 to 20 designates proportional distance in persons between ears and nose where points for electrodes are chosen. Electrode placements are labeled according to adjacent brain areas: F for frontal, C for central, T for temporal, P for posterior, and C for occipital. The letters are accompanied by odd numbers at the left side of the head and even numbers on the right side. So this is a placement of the electrode. These electrodes are being connected and you can see the brain signals from the computer. There's a software involved in it. So then here we have the 10 to 20 international. So you have the CZ, the C3, C4, that is for central. Then you have F3, F4, FP1, FP1, these are the frontal, T3, T for temporal, P3, P4, and all of this parietal. Display of the EEG may be stepped in one of the several ways. The representation of the EEG channel is referred to as a montage. So you have a bipolar montage. Each channel represents the difference between two adjacent electrodes. The entire montage consists of a series of these channels. Then you have the referential montage. Each channel represents the difference between a certain electrode and a designated reference electrode. Then we have an average reference montage. The output of all the amplifiers are summed up and averaged, and this average signal is used as a common reference for each channel. Then we have the Laplacian montage. Each channel represents the difference between the electrode and a weighted average of the surrounding electrodes. We have the amplifiers and the filters. So basically we are learning the entire hardware right now, because what is your endpoint? You're going to construct, or you're going to build up a design and implement an EEG with the help of an Arduino. That is the main application. So unless you have a background of the hardware part, it will be a little difficult for you to construct it. Amplifiers and filters. The input signal to the amplifier consists of 5 components: desired biopotential, undesired biopotential, a power line interference signal of 50 to 60 Hz and its harmonics, interference signals generated by the tissue, electrode interference, and noise. The A to D converter is interfaced to a computer so that the channels of analog signal are converted into a digital representation. Analog low-pass filters prevent distortion of the signal by interference effects with sampling rate called aliasing, which would occur if frequencies greater than one half of the sampling rate survive. These are the brain signals. The different FP1 denotes frontal. Then you have temporal. C and all denotes motor cortex. T, it denotes the temporal cortex. So this type of visualization, we can actually do it. There is a software called the BCI toolbox. Okay, so these type of the spatial resolution, the temporal resolution, the different brain waves and all, we can actually practically see it in a BCI toolbox. So it depends. Like in that, they have a lot of data, which is online data set is available. So we were actually using the online data set and finding out the different waves in EEG. Artifacts. Among basic evaluation of the EEG traces belongs scanning for signal distortion called artifacts. The artifact in the recorded EEG may be either patient-related or technical. Now, if it's patient-related, any body movements for 50 to 60, EMG impedance fluctuation, ECG, ECG is electrocardiogram, eye movements. What is EMG, by the way? Electromyogram, something to do with your muscle movement, then your eye movements, sweating. So all these things can lead to artifacts in your signal. So you have to find out an option of how you can remove these artifacts. Mostly we can actually do it in the software. Once you acquire the signal, in the signal processing step, you can actually do something to remove the artifacts. So what are the alternative neuroimaging techniques? This is just actually an extra information for you. So we have the PET scans, we have the fMRI scans, we have FNIRS. FNIRS is also there, which is used to find out the different oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin. So PET, picture image of brain giving information about the glucose and oxygen structures in the brain, blood flow and blood volume in the brain. What are its advantages? Compares a cross section of brain regions simultaneously. Disadvantage, findings may be caused by inhibitory neurons also. Now, what is functional magnetic resonance imaging? Picture image of anatomical structures derived from magnetic imaging. Allows a measurement of blood oxygen concentration, blood flow, and blood volume. Advantage, seeing ongoing changes as well as strong spatial resolution and quick effective data collection. So last time we discussed, right? Like what is an fMRI, what is an FNIRS. So fMRI is functional magnetic resonance imaging and FNIRS is functional near infrared spectroscopy. So both of them have a difference. What is the advantage of fMRI? fMRI is you also find out the oxygen hemoglobin level, the hemoglobin content in your blood, consumed in your human brain. Even in FNIRS you find out, but the difference is in FNIRS, functional near infrared spectroscopy, it is a portable device, but fMRI it is not portable. Biomagnetism measures magnetic activity given off the brain. Superconductive quantum interfering device. It is very difficult to pick up these small magnetic measures due to environmental magnetic force. So this is one of the greatest disadvantage of biomagnetism. Magnetoencephalogram, which is also called as MEG in short form. Similar to EEG in that it combines the activities of millions of neurons. What are the advantage? No reference electrodes. Some currents can only be found magnetically. Scans field patterns of brain, allowing for simultaneous area activity. Now, what is the disadvantage? Data not as clear and device is very susceptible to noise. What are the limitations of EEG? Poor spatial resolution, more sensitive to a particular set of postsynaptic potential, those generated in superficial layers of the cortex, on the gyri, in dendrites and deep structures of producing currents that are tangential to the skull. It is mathematically impossible to reconstruct a unique intracranial current source for a given EEG signal, as some currents produce potentials that cancel each other. This is referred to as the inverse form. So these are actually the limitations of EEG. So we had a background of what are the different, what is an EEG, what are the different brainwave patterns, what is the software part that comprises, what is the hardware. Basically, more of the hardware we looked into. And we looked into the amplifier, why we are using an amplifier, how do we remove the artifacts from the signal, then what is a function of an A to D converter. Then we looked into different other brain imaging techniques. And next class we'll go in through the hardware. Okay, so we look into like how we can probably construct an EEG with the help of an Arduino.